According to reports, Alexander Isak could be sold for £150 million. Well, what I want to know is, why do Newcastle have to sell him? Right now, they're in extremely good form. He's playing some of the best football he's played in his career. Newcastle are 90 minutes away from being in a cup final. They're very close to getting into the top four. The clubs that have been linked to him, the most concrete links out there are Arsenal. Reports coming out this window that they aren't prepared to pay the £150 million because they actually can't afford it. However, in the summer, that signing could be a reality. But I want to talk about it from Newcastle's and Arsenal's perspective. Make sure you go down, drop a like on the video if you haven't already. Make sure you have hit that subscribe button. 88% of everyone who watches the content is not subscribed. So go down and hit that subscribe button. Now, Newcastle actually played Arsenal recently, and the star of the show, of course, was Alexander Isak. Really, really good performance, a goal and an assist. An assist. He created the second goal. And right now, for me, he is definitely by far the most talked about player in the Premier League other than Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, Newcastle do value Alexander Isak at £150 million. This was the line that they played against Arsenal. And of course, other than Dubravka, Isak was phenomenal. He took his goal really well. He's already beaten Arsenal twice this season. But the narrative that Newcastle must sell him, I almost sympathise with Newcastle fans because I've been there with Harry Kane and we held off and held off and held off, and to the point of where eventually he did have to go. But let's say Newcastle United win the League Cup this season. Let's say they get into the top four this season. Would Alexander Isak want to leave if Newcastle can offer Champions League football and they've won silverware? I'm not necessarily sure. I look at Alexander Isak as, for me, the most complete number 9 in Europe this season. And yes, I would put Alexander Isak above Erling Haaland. You look at his stats this season, what's that? 22 games, 19 goal contributions, including 13 goals in the Premier League. For me, he's probably the most valuable number 9 up there with Erling Haaland. But why do Newcastle have to sell him? I would back the Newcastle hierarchy right now. Well, this is just my opinion. They would be prepared to make him the marquee signing. You've just seen Anthony Gordon pin himself down to a new contract, which I think was a 4-year extension. Could they pin down Alexander Isak and say, look, there's £250,000 a week, which would be breaking a Newcastle United wage structure for him. Gordon signed a new contract 22nd of October last year, and his deal now expires, I think, 2029. And you look at Gordon and Isak, I'm not saying they're Kane and Son, but they are match winners right now. And the one thing that Tottenham didn't do is win any silverware. We got the Champions League football, but if Newcastle win that League Cup, let's be honest, they are 90 minutes away from getting past Arsenal. Going up to St James's Park is an incredibly tough place to do, especially when they've got a 2-goal lead. You know how dominant that midfield can be with Tonali, with Bruno Guimaraes, with Joelinton. And bearing in mind, they turn up to the Emirates 1-2-0 without Bruno Guimaraes as well. You know how strong they are defensively. Clean sheets in something like 4 of their last 6 games. Clean sheets against Arsenal, clean sheets away against Manchester United, at home against Villa, away against Ipswich. You look at the fixtures they've got coming up. There's definitely fixtures coming up where they can get an even more confidence in that squad. And you look at where they are in the league right now, I just don't know if Alexander Isak is going to leave this summer. You're talking £150 million. Would Arsenal be prepared to spend around 95% of their transfer budget on Alexander Isak? And who says Newcastle want to sanction the sale? There's reports out there that Newcastle are prepared to sell him for that amount of money, but I just don't know who they would get to replace him. A like-for-like player out there. They're not going to get Erling Haaland. He's not going to leave his £400,000 a week to join Newcastle. But look, they're a point off of top 4 right now. I personally would think if Newcastle win that League Cup and Newcastle get top four, he will sign a new contract. Because he'll look at it and think, well, hang on, I've won silverware. I've got Anthony Gordon around me. Bruno Guimaraes may be the same. I know he is strongly linked with Manchester City. But I just think once you start winning trophies, all of a sudden players tend to think, I mean, is a trophy guaranteed at Arsenal? They might look at it and think, well, hang on, Arteta's been there coming up to 6 years this year, and so far he has only won an FA Cup. He may think about it like that. Bruno Guimaraes' contract expires June 30th, 2028. And I think Alexander Isak's contract expires June 30th, 2028 as well. So there's still 3 years or so left on his deal. Newcastle are completely in the driver's seat right now. His numbers are incredibly good. I look at, in terms of Arsenal, is there other players out there that could, come in and have a similar level of impact as an Alexander Isak? I'm not entirely sure on that. There's a lot of links out there linking Newcastle to a couple of midfielders. I think if they bring in, maybe if they bring in another forward and another midfielder, then maybe. But this comes out from the Mirror, and this article says Alexander Isak won't join Arsenal now. I think he has a transfer agreement in place. Alexander Isak has been spectacular in form for Newcastle this season to once again reignite rumours of a potential transfer to Arsenal, who have a clearing picture of terms of his exit. It says Arsenal have no chance to sign Alexander Isak this month, but missing out on Champions League qualification could force Newcastle's hand, suggests Emil Heskey. The Magpie striker has established himself as one of the Premier League's top goal scorers with 14 goals in his last 15 games, including scoring in 7 consecutive games in the Premier League. His latest exploits in front of goal saw him bag the opener in the 2-0 win over Arsenal. Now, Emil Heskey, thinks that he may have a transfer thing in place. I just think Newcastle, if what I'm saying happens, if they win silverware and they get top four, I think it's going to be very, very hard for Newcastle. The position they're in, I think it will be very, very difficult for them to sell him. This coming out from the Mirror as well. This one says, let me get this on the screen. It says Arsenal, Alexander Isak's hopes dashed as midfielder considers January exit. Alexander Isak has been linked with Arsenal, but Mikel Arteta has a chance of signing him in this January window looks slim, although one of their own, Jorginho, could be on the move. Now, you've got to think as well, if Isak joins Arsenal, what wages would they what, £300,000 a week, something like that? Arsenal supporters are hoping that their club can find some deals in the January sales. As one of their promising season now looks at risk, Mikel Arteta and co are clinging on to hopes of a major trophy with a huge FA Cup clash with Manchester United on Sunday. The Gunners lost their first leg of the Carabao Cup to Newcastle on Sunday. Who's to say that Newcastle can finish above Arsenal? What happens then? What happens if this decline, there's 5 points in it. Right now, Newcastle are in far better form. They're scoring goals. They're winning football matches. They're keeping clean sheets. Right now, who's to say that Newcastle can't finish above Arsenal? You got to remember, Arsenal have got Bukayo Saka out injured, Nwaneri out injured, Raheem Sterling is not getting game time, and Newcastle right now, alongside Nottingham Forest, are in the best form in the Premier League. I just don't get the narrative that, for me, Newcastle have to sell Isak. I think we're in a position right now where he's the guy to sign. Let's be honest, he is the guy to sign. And you look at the position where if Arsenal don't get, let's say Arsenal don't get top four for whatever reason, let's say they completely capitulate. Why would he leave Newcastle to join Arsenal? Does he have a better opportunity to win trophies? Potentially, but they only have one FA Cup in coming up to 6 years, and they are 750, 800 million pounds already into their project. If they don't win this season, when will they win? What happens if they get knocked out of the FA Cup to Manchester United? Isak's going to be sitting thinking, hang on, You've been knocked out of 2 trophies in the space of a week. So, why could someone like Liverpool not sign him? If Liverpool sell Darwin Núñez and Cody Gakpo, or Darwin Núñez and Chiesa, and they've got, say, £100 million, and Liverpool win the league, and Jota's injuries continue, why could Liverpool not look at Alexander Isak? Liverpool are less likely because they're not the sort of football club that will go out there and spend huge amounts of money on one player like that. That would be their probably breaking transfer restraints. Now, according to this Chronicle Live, Tyler Dibbling move Bundesliga. So Newcastle were looking at Tyler Dibbling. Now, I actually think Tyler Dibbling is a top player. Eddie Howe's side are in the midst of a breathtaking run of form as they challenge the top Premier League for a potential European spot as they chase Carabao Cup glory. 7 wins on the bounce have now included away wins at Old Trafford, Tottenham, and the Emirates inside a week. The thorny situation of Martin Dubravka's future now looks to be resolved after Newcastle weigh up whether to let the goalkeeper leave for a Saudi Pro League. Why Miggy Almiron. What does it actually say about Dibbling? Or is this just an article? Southampton attacker Tyler Dibbling has been linked to a move to Newcastle. I think he'd be a good signing. You think of Dibbling, Gordon, Isak, Murphy. That's a very, very strong attacking lineup. And I look at the Newcastle games they've got coming up. They've got Bromley tomorrow in the FA Cup. Then they've got Wolves. They've got a lot of games at home. And for me, I think they're probably the second or third best home side in the Premier League this season. If you look at the home form, Newcastle is 7th. They've played 9, won 5, lost 2, drawn 2. But you look at these fixtures, they're going to be obviously clear favourites to beat Bromley, to beat Wolves, and to beat Bournemouth. I think they're favourites. Other than Manchester City away, I would say Newcastle are favourites for every single one of those games. Every single one of those games. I expect them to put 4 or 5 past Bromley. I expect them to put 2 or 3 past Wolves. I expect them to put, maybe 3 or 4 past Bournemouth. Southampton away, they could easily put 3 or 4. Fulham at home, maybe 1 or 2. They are. You look at the amount of goals they've scored in their last 6. So 2 against Arsenal, 2 against Spurs, 2 against Man United, that's 6. 4 against Ipswich, that's 14. 3 against Brentford, that's 17. 3 against Villa, that's 20. They've scored 20 and conceded 2 in their last 6 games. So why can't they score another 20 goals in these next 6? Let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure you do drop a like. Make sure you have that subscribe button. And I'll see you all soon. Thank you for watching. I'm out.